What's up, dudes? It is your boy Bulletproof Gatsby back at it once again, and I gotta say I'm pretty excited for today and a little bit nervous. It is our very first ranked video on the channel. Of course, these will be my personal opinions. Feel free to disagree with me down in the comments below because it is going to be our top 8 Resident Evil games. It's going to be top 8 because there were about 3 or 4 games really kind of around the same for me personally. For those last 2 spots, it just made more sense to make it top 8. Also, spoilers for the games that I'm about to talk about. Just be sure you've played all the Resident Evil games, and then you'll be totally fine. And I gotta say, before we start, I was actually kind of shook by how difficult making this list was and how ranking these Resident Evil games like above one another, it was a lot more difficult than I actually thought it would be. Because all these games I'm about to talk about, I absolutely love, and I think you'll see that. But without any further ado, let's get to the list. Number 8, Resident Evil Revelations 2. This was the first game to be released post The Evil Within, and you can really feel and see the inspiration that that game had on Revelations 2. I gotta say, I was much more of a fan of the Claire and Moira storyline than I was of the Barry and Natalia storyline. I just thought that they worked together more. Moira is just so sassy and I absolutely love it. I feel like she reacts like a normal person would. She says the F word a lot in this game, and I don't know, I was just wholesomely amused by Moira as a character. And I gotta say, once you finally unlock the samurai sword instead of just the crowbar and you start running through the game like shing, 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 I gotta say, I thought that was fucking great. Moira actually has one of my favorite lines in this game where she says, Alex says something that she's a god, and then Moira says, come out here so I can choke a god. I don't know why, I just love that line so much. This game, of course, was also episodic. It released episode 1 for free, then 2, 3, and 4 were paid. I downloaded the free version of episode 1 and just played that first episode over and over and over again, and then I actually bought the rest of the game after I had a little bit of stuff. And I really like the story of a Wesker child that is still alive, Alex Wesker, and her brain swapping with Natalia, the little girl. I thought that was great, and it just goes to prove that that's just one more way that they could bring back your boy Albert Wesker. I've said it a million times, but I'm telling you that they gotta do it eventually at this point. I mean, the only other thing they haven't done is time travel. Oh god. Raid mode was also a lot of fun. I didn't really play it a whole lot because it does get a little grindy, but the maps that they used were really fun, and if I had somebody else to play with, I probably would have played it a lot more, because just for me, like, I'm gonna have to have a partner when it comes to grindage. Number 7, Resident Evil 3 Remake. Now, a lot of people give this game flack. I really enjoyed this game. Is there a lot you could talk down about this game? Absolutely. They did cut a bunch of different stuff. A lot of people said they don't think they got their money's worth. I personally did. It did come packaged with Resident Evil Resistance, which did show promise, but it's just a game I never really got into. Like, I am a fan of games like Dead by Daylight and Friday the 13th, so it showed promise for me. It's just another one of those games I didn't really have a whole lot of people to play with, so it kind of just fell off my radar, to be completely honest. But back to Resident Evil 3, did they cut stuff? Yeah. Was Nemesis a little underwhelming when it compared to like Mr. X? Yeah. Did I have a bloody good time playing it? Absolutely. I had a phenomenal time playing this. I'm pretty sure I platinumed this game in like a week. I can't remember when it came out, but I'm pretty sure by the following Monday, it was pretty much done. And I had a blast with this game. I really did. And for me personally, I think this game is one of the best ways that they've done New Game Plus, where everything that's unlockable starts in your box, and anything that you've unlocked in the challenge menu that was also in Revelations 2, like with expanding your storage, starting off with all these different things, I thought was absolutely great. I really loved it. And I absolutely loved the dodge mechanic, and I got really good at it. I think the flack that Resident Evil 3 gets is definitely unjustified, but the redesigns of Jill and Carlos I really like. I think Jill is just as badass as she was before. There was a couple lines that I wish they had kept in certain spots, but Carlos also I thought was great. I really like his redesign. Nemesis was a little underwhelming, sure, but he still was really cool on the times you did get to see him. I just wish it was done a little bit different, but there's no denying I had an absolute blast with Resident Evil 3. Number 6, Resident Evil 6. I gotta say, if I played these games only once and never replayed them again, Resident Evil 6 would probably not be on this list. There was so much hype going into this game, and not gonna lie, when I first played it, I was severely underwhelmed. I'll be completely honest with you. However, the hype that this game had at the time is unbelievable. The trailer for Resident Evil 6, the Captivate trailer, is not only one of the greatest Resident Evil trailers, one of the greatest video game trailers, but dare I say, one of the greatest trailers for anything of all time. It got me so freaking hyped. I can't even explain it. You have this whole trailer that's showing us all this crazy new stuff. We hadn't seen this much of the game before. You're like, whoa, this is crazy. And then at the end of the trailer, you see Chris come up on Ada, getting ready to shoot her. And then Leon comes in and pushes him away. And then they start fighting. Chris and Leon, easily two of the fan favorites of the series, are fighting. And it makes sense and it works. And it makes, like, even though we saw a second of the trailer, you see them fighting, you see Ada, and you already know. It makes perfect sense. It doesn't matter what's going on. Of course, you can see Chris going after Ada. And of course, you can see Leon trying to protect Ada. No matter what you say about this game, that is one of the best moments. No matter how it builds up or how it pays off, that is one of the greatest moments, period, in Resident Evil. And then, for the extra dollop of cream, for just that little bit more hype, they pushed the game forward a month. Now, with all that hype, it definitely underwhelmed upon first playthrough, but there's no denying that it probably shouldn't have been released a month early and maybe kept a little bit longer. For sure, they could have smoothed this game out a little bit, but there's no denying I had an absolute blast playing this game. The Mercenaries mode on this game was probably the side game I played the most out of any other Resident Evil game. I played Resident Evil 6 Mercenaries the most. More than 4 Mercenaries, 5 Mercenaries, more than any raid mode. Resident Evil 6 Mercenaries was just so damn fun. When I replayed all of the Resident Evil games for stream, going back on this, man, I gotta say, it feels a lot better now than it ever did. Even though the story could be better, sure, I still have an absolute blast with Resident Evil 6. Number 5, Resident Evil Village. Now this is the newest game on the list. I wanted to wait to do this list to let the hype die down a little bit for Village, so I didn't place it too high just because of its newness. I feel like 5 is a good place for Village. Absolutely great to go back and play the newest game in the Resident Evil series. The Mercenaries mode was great. My biggest problem, even though I love Lady D, is the whimsical aspects of it. Werewolves, vampires, they do explain it in a sense, but where it comes from, the Megamycete, is still a whimsical thing. Now I get that everything comes from plants in Resident Evil, but it was all made in a lab. To where in Village it says that this thing comes from nature, if I'm not mistaken, and I didn't like that. Like Mother Miranda just stumbled onto it. I still love it. I'm not going to give this game a whole lot of crap story-wise and give Resident Evil 6 a pass, you know what I mean? I still really like the story. I'm a really big fan of Ethan. I'm a really big fan of Chris and how the promotional material played out Chris. I was actually a little nervous, and there's some things that definitely don't make sense. You know what, I can't, this one's just the newest one, it's the one that's the freshest on my mind. I don't want it to come out to sound negative because I do absolutely love this game. The Mercenaries mode is also a lot of fun. This Mercenaries mode would probably be up there in the top 3 of most side things that I had played, because I played the hell out of Village Mercenaries. It was an absolute great time. The things that happened with Ethan, finding out that Ethan was actually a mold monster this entire time, blew my mind. I was kind of like, what? But I've come to actually really enjoy it, and they really do allude to it. And if you go back and play 7, after playing this and finding that out, there are things that they actually say in 7 that also allude to Ethan being dead and being a mold monster. But yeah, Village, love the game. You get a freaking lightsaber in Village. How can you not have fun with a lightsaber? I think it could be a little bit more powerful, but I still had a blast slicing and dicing Darth Maul mode. No cap. Speaking of Resident Evil 7, number 4, Resident Evil Biohazard. I have to say, this game single-handedly sold me on PlayStation VR, and to this day, I swear, in my personal opinion, is the greatest piece of PlayStation VR content that there is, just in general. Just to take a little side note for PlayStation VR in general, everything else kind of feels like a tech demo, where Resident Evil Biohazard was a full-fledged video game. It was a real game. I know that sounds weird to say, like, real, but it was a real game that you could play on VR, and I absolutely loved it. I had an absolute blast. I beat this entire game in VR. What a rush. What a rush. On top of that, this game really returned to the series' roots. Man, was this game nice and creepy, nice and scary. The ambiance, the atmosphere that this game did. I was really impressed. I wasn't sure where the scariness factor was going after Resident Evil 6. Revelations 2 had some scares, but not really. It was more of a sci-fi shooter, where Resident Evil 7 comes out, and this is survival horror once again. One thing that really helped with that was actually the first-person mode. Not something I really expected from Resident Evil, and I felt unsure about it, but once I started playing it and once I heard VR was involved, first-person mode made perfect sense. Perfect sense. The enemies I felt like were a little bland, but beyond that, I had a great time. The DLC, well, the DLC was okay. They had some more puzzles and stuff. They had some puzzle DLC. They had like a card game DLC 21 where you can like get your fingers cut off. Not a huge fan. We might get into that one day on the channel, but not right now. The graphics I actually thought were really good, really shiny, really meaty. Is that a good word? Probably not. Jack, Marguerite, the bakers, they were both great. And what a great idea it was to put us in the shoes of a newcomer, Ethan Winters, that had no idea what he was doing. It really added to the fear. And one thing that added to the fear is, I'm going to plug it again one more time, is the VR, because it's one thing for someone to jump at you on a TV screen, and it's another thing for someone to jump at you and they're literally right here in front of your flipping face, man. It is... Number 3, Resident Evil 5. I absolutely adore Resident Evil 5. When it comes to campaigns, I probably played the Resident Evil 5 campaign more than any other Resident Evil, because I beat it by myself on all the different difficulties, and every one of my friends that has Resident Evil 5, I beat Resident Evil 5 with. Seriously, every one of my friends that has this game, I have beaten this game with them. I didn't really play a whole lot of Mercenaries in this one, but I've played this campaign over and over and over again. I have all the guns fully maxed out and all the infinite ammo for every gun, which even after you beat the game a couple times, it's still kind of difficult to obtain all the different guns, all the different versus characters. I had an absolute blast with this game. A lot of people say this is where the series really started to lose its footing, but I gotta say, this game was a lot of fun. Did it have as many scares? No. Was it a lot of fun? Yes. Did you have Chris punching a boulder? Yes. Was it a lot of fun? Yes. Before PlayStation VR could really run with Resident Evil, it's because PlayStation Move walked with Resident Evil 5. And I gotta say, I had bought all the DLC. I had bought everything for Resident Evil 5. I got my PlayStation Move, and it didn't work. You had to buy the gold edition. The biggest thing with the gold edition is it had all the DLC, and like, I already bought it online, so that really did suck. I was really upset with that the PlayStation Move didn't work with anything but the gold edition. So there's another playthrough for you. I beat the whole game with the PlayStation Move, and it was an absolute blast. Love Resident Evil 5. Number 2, Resident Evil 2. This one was actually really close to being in the number 1 spot. I legitimately almost put it in the number 1 spot, because when it comes to Resident Evil 2, there are very few negative things I could say about it. I believe the action and the survival horror elements were mended almost perfectly. My biggest complaint, if I had to nitpick, would be that the storylines don't sync up together as much as they should. But I had a phenomenal time them redoing some of the scenes, making them better, making them more emotional. And not only that, Mr. X, just that constant tension always going on in the background. I absolutely loved it. I wasn't really sure if the Resident Evil series was going to go back to third person after Resident Evil 7, but then they came out with this remake, a remake we had been waiting for years. So much hype behind this game, and so much of it was delivered. And I think almost survival horror perfected. Almost. But I feel like the one game that did perfect survival horror with the right balance of survival elements and action has to go to the #1 spot, which at this point, you guys probably know exactly what it is. Number 1, Resident Evil 4. This is the game that started me on the bandwagon of Resident Evil. I remember getting it for Christmas one year. I played it. I played literally like the first mission. I actually put it down. I'm like, this is kind of difficult, the controls and stuff, how you have to aim. You can't aim and move at the same time. Being a person that played a lot of first-person shooters, I'm like, what is this? But then I picked it back up because my friend was die-hard telling me that I gotta play this. So I did, and I fell in love. And this game still holds up all these years later. And I played this game maybe like a month or so ago, right before Village came out, and this game still holds up. It is still a phenomenal game. It's a game I truly have a pleasure in playing and replaying and replaying and replaying. I absolutely love it. I have beaten Resident Evil 4 on every PlayStation console since PlayStation 2. I beat it on 2, I beat it on 3, I beat it on 4. I guess that they haven't released it for 5 yet, but speaking of which, there's a lot of rumors coming out that Resident Evil 4 is going to be the next remake. I gotta tell you guys this right now, it shouldn't be. It really should not be, because this game does not need a remake. It is still a phenomenal game to this day. Games that do need a remake, however, are games like Resident Evil 0, Code Veronica X. Games like that need a remake, because, sorry guys, tank controls and fixed camera angles suck ass. I'm sorry, I said it. That is why this list is only top 8 instead of top 10, because there's a couple games that were tank controls with the fixed camera angles, and it's like, these games are all about the same to me. I didn't like them. That's where the OG Nemesis, the OG Resident Evil 2, those are like the 4 games that were rounding out for those last 2 spots, and it's like, honestly, yeah, were they scary? Yeah, not because of anything else the game did, but because the controls were really bad, and I was really bad at the controls. I get why they were so revolutionary at the time, with Resident Evil 4 being my like jump piece or whatever, where I started. It only made sense that I went back and played the rest of the games, and boy oh boy, oh boy, was it rough. I beat them, and I did begin to have fun with them once I got the hang of them. But all of those games, I beat once. Every other game on this list, I've played multiple times. I've beaten them over and over and over again. I've gotten all of the special weapons. I gotta say, playing Mercenaries mode and getting the hand cannon in this, while infuriating, was so much fun. Because once you got the hand cannon and you just started murking anything and everything, such a blast. Truly, such a blast. And since we're going to talk about remakes for a second, I just have to say, before I cut off here, out of all the remakes that are potentially coming up, the 2 games that I'm excited for the most would be Code Veronica X, Resident Evil 0, and honestly, if they do remake 4, that means 5 and 6 can't be that much farther along behind them. And if Resident Evil 6 gets remade, that might be one of the best Resident Evil games ever. Think of all the stuff that they cut out of 3. A little extra trimming, a little extra editing for Resident Evil 6, and tightening on the mechanics and stuff like that. Resident Evil 6 would be great. That's pretty much all I got for you guys tonight. My favorite Resident Evil games. I feel like I could talk about these games all night, but we'll just cut it down right there. If you disagree, feel free to let me know down in the comments below. What are your favorite Resident Evil games? What got you started into Resident Evil? There might be some more Resident Evil content on the channel, but as of right now, I'm not sure. There are actually a couple different rant videos that I've been thinking about doing, just going down on a rant. We'll see how it goes, but until then, much love everybody. I appreciate you for being here, and until next time, deuces.